Don in London, hello. It's September the 15th. My video's all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. So an alcoholic in recovery. Some say recovered, some say this or that, it doesn't matter. It's how I feel about today. And I'm sober today, but contingent on keeping my life in the day, living life in the moment. Some call that spiritual. After all, where can spiritual exist except now? There are no exceptions, I guess. Spiritual life is always in the now. Why do I say that? Well, it's part of a program I'm always doing these days, living life on life's terms. So, an alcoholic, don't know when I crossed the line. I do suspect this. It was the very first drink I ever took, which I remembered, which changed the way I felt. I felt better for it. And as a consequence, what do we do if we feel better for doing something? We do it again and again and again. And then the behaviour, we are fixing ourselves and our feelings. So in the old days I used to try and fix everything, including how I met people, how I lived with people in particular places doing particular things. All part of my addiction, I guess. Being in the right place with the right people, doing the right things and having the right things, so I would feel right about my life. So I was trying to control it rather than live it. And every time I tried to control life, I narrowed down the options to what I thought was best, not only for me but for other people around me. So a very judgmental individual, without even realising that was what I was doing. Had I not taken that drink which fixed my feelings and experienced the feelings and then being able to cope with them, I might have made better progress towards whatever it is I am able to do on a daily basis. But we get pushed and pulled in so many different ways by our society, and often we are developed and trained into one particular area of living. And if we follow that path, we probably do not fulfill our potential in other areas of life. So I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I want to be a broad, balanced and happy individual doing what I can do because that's what I like to do. Needs met these days, that is sober today, and the rest of life can happen. So how did I get sober? It wasn't me on my own. I tried that track far too many times. I often said to myself, I must be drinking too much, I must be relying on it, in the later days of my drinking life. So 35 years after the first one, I couldn't stop. I didn't know how to. I tried everything. Self-will run riot, and self-will will let me down, I realise. There is only so much one person can do on their own. So we may get a moment of clarity, and I got one, and it was after I'd tried everything. And the simple answer was, I couldn't do it alone. I couldn't rely on me to provide me with the answers about my very small, isolated and narrow life, which was to drink as if I was a machine, process it, and then drink more, with the ultimate goal always being to find oblivion rather than reality. I just couldn't stand the reality of my situation, and it took a long time to realise just where I got to. So excuse me, a lot of ignorance about me and my drinking, followed by denial that I couldn't stop. I could stop. I did stop. A few days, maybe, or 1 or 2 days, and then no days at all. And this moment of clarity, I couldn't do it on my own. I sought professional help. The professional help said, we need to help you dry out. We need to help you find a path back to being a human again. They didn't actually say that. Just, we'll dry you out and see where we can go from here. Not making the goals too big, not making the future too frightening. After all, the present day was frightening enough. So dried out. I had the opportunity to go to rehab. Rehab took the lid off my feelings because they've been suppressed for so long by alcohol. I ran away from rehab after I had fulfilled my obligation, which was 3 months and 1 week. And not knowing what to do next, what did I do? I went straight back to old behaviour, bought a bottle of vodka, and found myself completely isolated, homeless, and in a world of pain. So today, less pain. Why? Simply, in rehab and before, I had become aware of Alcoholics Anonymous, a fellowship which is all about how to be sober and share the message of sobriety. And I'm not a great joiner of anything, and the very idea that I would join a fellowship where people would know me inside out, was repellent and against my better judgment. But as my better judgment didn't seem to stop me from drinking, I needed to give it a go. And suddenly I found there were a whole population, if you like, of people who would share their experience, strength and hope of living sober, and didn't want anything from me other than a desire for me to be sober as well. So it was a shock to the system that there were people who had the values I started off with in life, and it all got distorted by living a life which was not of my making, but certainly one which I stuck to because it meant I would have some amount of comfort when everything went wrong. But the one thing we all need is, I guess, to belong and be a part of and included in some way. Maybe just enough inclusion or a lot of inclusion, depending on our personality and our nature. But the fellowship of AA, I don't speak for it, never can, never will, is full of unique, authentic people who get sober, try to be sober for just 1 day, and then they join up to days, weeks, months, years, and sometimes decades of sobriety, where life is working in the moment, working right now, rather than waiting for tomorrow where it will be all right, because that was one of my things. I'll start again tomorrow. Nothing's changed practically in that respect, but these days it's not about I'll stop drinking and start living tomorrow. I've stopped drinking, I live today, and where tomorrow goes, or where life leads, is where life leads. No longer fastened down to my opinions as they were, or my judgments as they were. So the fellowship of AA have liberated me to be me, to have freedom of choice, to do what is right for me, as determined by today and what's going on. And the good news is we live longer. The bad news is, well, even the good news, even we get other things wrong with us. So I've been alive long enough to see through quite a few illnesses and ailments, but 1 or 2 are chronic and keep me on my toes on a daily basis. So I share about AA here, but I don't represent it. As I say, unique, authentic people, we are all trusted servants, no leaders. So we organise ourselves and agree how we're going to run our meetings and our groups as we determine. So it's a sort of anarchic democracy, and nobody has the final say except what we call the higher power. And the higher power is the conscience of the many, the group conscience, or the conscience of many people, how we run things. So I'm going to share the AA preamble, which is on this little card, freely available to newcomers normally. On one side it has the AA preamble, where the meeting starts. Inside it has the 12 steps and 12 traditions, and on the back it has the serenity prayer, which is really what I follow in these videos. Steps in action, how these 12 steps of action have developed me to have freedom today to choose what is good for me on a daily basis. So we always say just for today, it's just for today, and then life opens up as we listen to the world and hear the wisdom of other people, rather than self-reliance to the point of madness and insanity. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to read the preamble, share something from the daily reflections, and then wind up with the serenity prayer at the end. So here is the AA preamble. I read it rather than recite it. Simply, it's easy to recite something and not feel it, not feel the meaning of it. So I try read it carefully, and I add in as I go. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So it's about our common problem, not being able to stop our addiction or alcoholism, and help others to recover as well. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and I know this. There are no rules, laws or regulations governing the conduct of people in the fellowship. We work out how we want to conduct ourselves and be a part of something. And as there are no rules, laws or regulations, we need to find agreement as trusted servants within fellowship, from just turning up to doing something which requires organisation. But there are no leaders, so nobody is there to tell us what to do. We work it out for ourselves. So we get the experience, strength and hope from others, so we can work it out. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. And again, we don't have masses of money, so we rely on each other. If we have a few pennies to spare to pay for rent, tea, coffee, biscuits, and any administration that is needed to keep the fellowship going. So we work on a prudent reserve, which is just enough, needs met, if you like, wants forgotten. Because if we're wanting control of something most often, which is like an insurance policy. If we do this, we guarantee that. And there's no fixing in AA either. We can't fix anything. We live life and find what our choices are. And if there are no guarantees, which there aren't, it's about what we can do together rather than expect to be fixed. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. So AA as a fellowship or a society is not there to promote anything. It doesn't promote anything. Attraction rather than promotion. So it's about what you see is what you get. So if you see something which is worthwhile trying out, then you try it out. But it is what you see is what you get. So you can see the examples of where it's working well by people sharing, and you can see examples of where it's not working because people are sharing their truth. And everybody who goes to AA has some sort of affiliation, judgment, outlook, which is preferred by them. So you will hear about that over and over again, but that's their way of living. We look for the similarities which are going to help us be sober, and the similarities which will lead us back to a drink. So it's both of those things. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So we give it away to keep it. We give it away freely. We give of ourselves the truth of who we are and where we've come from and what's happened to us. And in doing that, we share our story of life, our life story, and more importantly, what's working today, because this is where it all happens. We can be weighed down by our history for a long, long time if we don't know how to let it go. So part of the 12-step program is letting go, but not forgetting what happened. Letting go, but not forgetting what happened. Letting go the misery, the horror, the dark side where we ended up. And then learning and investing in what we can do today. But not dwelling on the fantasy of the future either. We may have goals and aspirations, which is just right, absolutely right to have. But we need to put the building blocks, make the right steps today in order that things can follow. So life is organic, it's growing. I'm just turning my email off. Don't want noises off, but I do get them anyway. Earlier in the week I had to start again 3 times, and it took 2 days to do 1 day's video, so I was behind. So I've caught up. I'm right in the moment now. Daily Reflections, this book, provides a 1-page a day, something to think about in terms of where we are in our recovery. A little bit of meditation each day seems to have benefit for me. And I've read them over and over again, the Daily Reflections, and I read them out here as well. And then add on what's been going on for me today and over the years. So today's Daily Reflection: a new life. Yes, there is a substitute, and it is vastly more than that. It is a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. Life will mean something at last, and that comes from the big book of AA, big blue book. Many in the fellowship will know exactly what it is. But as is often said, if you want to hide something from a member of the fellowship, slip it inside the AA big book and they'll never find it, because after our first year often we forget to read it, unless we are sponsors and are doing something on a daily basis which requires that we can share the message and pass it on. And I know that's me. I do pick it up pretty much every day. But do I share it? Yes, I share it here, and this is my way of sharing. Many people prefer and feel happier sharing simply in the rooms and meetings of AA, and that's a personal choice. It must be a personal choice. At the same time, anonymity in fellowship is sacrosanct. It's absolutely needed, so people feel safe to share their experience, strength and hope, and that enables them to tell the truth as it is, not as they may wish it to be. So, carrying on, life is better without alcohol. AA and the presence of a higher power keep me sober, and as I said, my higher power is the collective wisdom of the planet, which is always there, providing I've got my eyes, ears open, all my senses working, and not messed up by alcohol or some other stuff. It could be behavioural stuff as much as anything. But for the grace of God, of a higher power to keep me sober, but for the grace of God, it does even better. It brings service into my life, and this is, whatever your idea of God, no God, so it could be atheist, agnostic, not sure, or believer. The higher power works for me if we're all sharing the truth. I do believe that God is truth, love and wisdom. Truth is worked on. We start with opinion and belief and absorb facts, and then we get to some sort of truth. Truth is better informed by the many, so God is truth, love and wisdom. Wisdom from other people, and love. Love is the primary emotion which drives us. To love people, be loved back. Unless, not needily, not wanting, but just because it's unconditional. Love happens. We help each other. We develop affection for human beings rather than human doings. Contact with the AA program teaches me a new and greater understanding of what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what it does. If you heard that, that was the bottles being chucked out by Bendham, one of the famous restaurants local to me. Great big bucketfuls of bottles emptied. And that's an aside. Anyway, coming back to this, is and what it does. But most importantly, it helps to show me who I am, an alcoholic who needs the constant experience of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, so that I may live a life given to me by my higher power. Nature, providence, the universe, whatever it is in terms of your personal understanding, is what counts, not my understanding. Mine is very nuts and bolts. But even if it's nuts and bolts, living in the day, who on earth made this universe, or how does it work? I don't know. I can't define it. What works for me as a higher power is truth, love and wisdom. God is truth, love and wisdom. It's an all-embracing philosophy of living, and it works for me. And what I've come to understand is God works for others. The idea, concept or reality of God in the moment of death now works for everyone if even if it's no God. Simply just there is a spiritual now, and there is a higher power in the now, which is the collective wisdom of the planet. That works really well. It means we can keep on being inquisitive, interested, included, part of, in some way or other. But not to be powerful in having more information over other people. We share everything we've got. We give it away to keep it. Anyway, some of my thoughts now. This is from this morning. How am I feeling this morning? Calm, pain-free, emotionally and physically. Right now in the moment, this moment is where spiritual happens. My feelings fit with now, so I feel okay in the moment of now. No history bludgeoning or future concerns pulling me into fantasy of what-ifs. Life on life's terms, able to love, be loved and useful. Routines and meditation, sharing the message is part of my routine. I always remind myself of steps 1, 2 and 3. Powerless over alcohol. Life could get unmanageable if I drink again. Came to believe a power greater than me could restore me to sanity. The power of people. The collective power, the wisdom of the many. Step 3, let go, let God. Let go, let in truth, love and wisdom. And say to myself, I am responsible when anyone anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there, and for that I am responsible. And then steps 10, 11 and 12, part of the maintenance of me. Step 10 is working on what has disturbed me, where things may have gone wrong or gone right. And step 10 for me also includes gratitude for being alive and having the ability to keep on making mistakes. Step 11 is all about prayer and meditation, having a quiet moment or two somewhere in the day, which is to let go and let in wisdom. Let go all my troubles, let in some wisdom, and then maybe ask somebody for help. And step 12, sharing the message. But step 12 really incorporates every single element of all the 12 steps and needs to be understood in its totality. It's not just about sharing a message, it's understanding the steps and how they work on a daily basis. And the other thought this morning, and this was from, I picked up an email very, very late last night, and I couldn't respond at that time. I had no phone number to call, and that may have been because the person had also had their phone stolen. A request for help may come in fellowship. We might not get the message immediately, and I was about 12 hours behind on this case. So important that we have many to ask for help in fellowship. So it's not just one person we rely on. If we did that, we might pull them down into the mire, or they may not be able to help us and we could get resentful. So it's the many in fellowship asking for help. Always the many who may respond in good time, and us when we can. So I was really way behind on this one. We are responsible and responsive. If we cannot, another often can. And if it's a reasonable request for help and we can do something, we go for it as best we can with what we have. But if we haven't got it to give, it's often worth saying, I haven't got it to give, but have you got more people who can ask about this? And if not, we may have a contact who could help, or some advice about what to do next. We may not solve problems straight away. We don't need to make them bigger, and we may have opportunity to share a way forwards with other people. That's how it works for me, and I don't have to be the oracle. In fact, I'm not. So please remember, this is just one voice in recovery. It's the many voices always which make the difference. Now, for other years, notwithstanding other years, every day is different. So different things come out on different day, on the same day each year. These are thoughts between 2005 and 2010. Always tomorrow, always looking for the next best something to help me make sense of life. What a struggle for me or anyone. I share about the past because breaking with it can be the very devil. Sometimes we hear the phrase, the devil is in the detail, and we wonder what we may have done or missed. Was I missing out? Had I made the right decisions? Could it be different? Could I improve my situation and life? And we don't know till we we don't know the answers. We may see in hindsight at the end of the day what's worked, what are we happy about, what hasn't worked, and that's the most often what we concentrate on, the negative. And that's part of what we call step 10. On and on, striving to be perfect and never so, not only driving me bonkers or mad, driving those around me with a restlessness that never seemed to go away. I couldn't sit still in the past. I was always on the go, relaxing. I didn't know how to do that. And of course we can have the fear of not being good enough. We learn some of these feelings of inadequacy early on in life, from home, school, the neighbourhood, sport, girlfriends. Or more often than not, the rot is set from us. A moving target is more difficult to hit, so I was always on the move. And ambition driving us always to keep on going and making more efforts to fit in, or the opposite, not fit in at all, be a rebel, without causes often, and no purpose other than to find a cause, to find a reason to be here. Well, the most important reason to be here is to experience life and have freedom to choose where it may go, based on good information, not my head, my thinking, which can be influenced from very early on in my life, which is put on a brave face, a stiff upper lip so you don't see what's going on inside, and cover up any fear so you don't see it. But life is full of fearful incidents all the time, and if you keep covering them up, the fear gets bigger and bigger and bigger until we don't know where it's coming from anymore. We just feel frightened and paranoid. So the answer is to live in the moment, where we can do what we can do with a bit of courage and faith, rather than fear and a brave face. So if we open up and be vulnerable, rather than secrets keeping us stuck, if we open up, we have a better chance. Going on, life, learning how to love, be loved and useful is something which has struck home in sobriety. Learning how to cherish people always and not be superficial and indifferent to their situation and circumstances. All good fundamental learning each and every day about how to live simply, one day at a time. Living in the moment of now, where everything happens, where spiritual happens, coping with reality, living life on life's terms. It doesn't mean we're going to be happy, joyous and free all the time. It means we'll be unhappy, completely sad, and not free at all some of the time. It's a balance. But if we have our wits back, then we won't get to our wits' end and go back into the insanity of trying to use old solutions to new problems. It doesn't mean we don't forget what is workable. We actually enhance it by asking for help. And then we become more self-reliant, more determined, and sharper in the moment of now. And when we don't feel sharp or aware, then we ask for help. Self-help and self-improvement can be a very lonely exercise for human beings geared to live and be exercise for human beings geared to live and be interdependent. Another of my musings has been that most self-help literature lacks context, offers a person more power over their destiny and often unrealistic expectations, which is the very essence of being deprived of something. The best self-help books are full of blank pages we fill in as we go. We develop wisdom through experience and learn through action rather than understanding the theory. And that's true of me. I read the 12 steps and thought, yeah, I can do that. But then completely forgot them over and over again because I wasn't putting anything into practice. And in my early life, theory and practice, I knew that theory was useless often if it wasn't put into practice because we forgot it. Even I learned that early on. But I was driven mad by the fear of being found out, so I was always covering up. Aspirations are good when they have foundations in reality, and we have choices. Dreams are helpful, and if we ask ourselves what we need to do to make our way forwards, and we can see it as realistic, then we have a plan and a first step. But what I do know is, if I were to pluck out of the air, I want to be Prime Minister of England. If I did want to be, what would be my next step? And as I don't know, maybe I ought to be a bit more realistic. Why don't I enjoy the life I've got and think about why on earth would I want to be Prime Minister of England? Right now, I wouldn't think so. But then, of course, I'm not the person in the post, nor do I wish to be. But if I want to be a person who is helpful to other people, to an extent I can do that within my capacity. So I need to know what I'm capable of. Going on, we never know what is round the corner, how the big picture may change radically and squash our dreams, or make a dream possible. Now, do you hear the bottles again? Same restaurant, same problem, empties. Today and every day we can share experience, strength and hope with each other, find out wisdom and learn wisdom. We are not driven to perfection, we are more likely to be living reality with every real possibility of happiness, an opportunity to make choices and be free in the ever-present, imperfectly perfect moment of now. So if we live in the moment, this present moment, it's imperfect and we don't know the answers, which is why we have it, to learn more answers about where we are going, what we can do, being sober and open, always open to the possibility of what new stuff might be useful. Our living amend, and this is part of step 9, which is all about step 9 in September for me. 12 steps, 12 months, so I try and concentrate on one step per month. Our living amend, sober and in reality, no longer driven by self-will run right, enough self-will to make choices and be a part of the big picture. Acceptance of reality offers us a firm foundation to make plans, subject to change with agreeableness rather than resentfulness. We are always under construction today, so we are forever going on. I go on forever. In these videos it may seem that way. Anyway, a new life always lived in the moment of now. Life relished as it happens, not as it was and not as it may be in the future. With our focus on what makes life work today, we are building firm foundations for spiritual, living in the moment of now, emotional and physical well-being. So knowing my feelings and how I am physically, my feelings fit the moment of now, rather than a history of feelings coming and spoiling it, or in making me think or feel life as a fantasy, or what it will be right now and in the future. Living real is the best gift I've ever had. With our focus on what makes life work today, we are building firm foundations. Sober, we are best equipped to experience hardship and happiness always. So we're not going to get away from hardship and unhappiness, but we are going to be able to experience happiness as happiness happens. The gift of recovery, living life on life's terms, living reality, finding out if we are actually not right, but finding the truth of now. So imagining and fantasy are very valuable in helping us determine where we would like to be in the future. But then we have to find the first steps towards it, based in truth, love and wisdom, which is the greater number of voices sharing their experience and wisdom and offering help and suggestions. So it's not all about doing it our way, it's about living on the highway, or thy way, rather than my way. At the end of these videos I will share the Serenity Prayer, which tells me what I can do. I can change me, my attitudes and behaviour, look outwards, get more wisdom. What I can't do is change you, your attitudes and behaviour. So I can change me, I can't change you, and I keep on learning the wisdom to know the difference, because if I ever start to control others and trying to make it my way rather than the highway, thy way, I lose my sense of proportion, that I may know better than you. And one thing I have learned is you know what is better for you than I ever will. So I share the tools and the steps of recovery, how to get out of the madness, out of the insanity, back to sanity, whatever you choose or know it to be. So the Serenity Prayer, doesn't matter whether you're agnostic, atheist or believe that. You can meditate and reflect on it to God, or in simple good conscience, because we all have conscience which is developed. We have something called conscience, it's in us, which is not about killing each other, but we have to learn that as well. So it's nature and nurture. So to God, or in good conscience, as you choose and is right for you. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me, in the moment, and just for today.